Elementary School. Of course, with the changes in the catchment and the boundaries in the area, that's certainly going to impact a number of our students. And as a school district, we understand that, and we're going to be working with families to support the transition of your students to their new catchments. So again, the Willoughby area has certainly over the last few years been impacted with a number of changes. And unfortunately or fortunately, depending on the way we look at things, we're back for yet another information evening talking about boundary changes. Just give me one sec, just moving the slide. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that the work that we're doing this evening is being done on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Matsqui, Kwantlen, Katzie, and Semiahmoo First Nations. As always, as we work with our community, we want to ensure that we maintain the same lens that we've maintained all the way through the transitions that we work with, especially with the Willoughby Slope in the last few years. Something that began with our superintendent, Suze Hoffman, continued on with Gord Stewart, our current superintendent, under his leadership. Certainly we believe that we're going to be ensuring the social emotional well-being of your children, being mindful of the physical well-being of our students, and as well ensuring that we have a sustainable learning opportunity for all of our students. As we currently stand in the Willoughby Slope, it's no secret that most of our schools are virtually at capacity or beyond, and we're doing everything we can to ensure that we have appropriate classroom spaces for those students. But as you well know, that's getting to be a virtual impossibility as the growth of the area starts to outgrow the number of spaces we have for students. For today, we're going to run through a number of different items. I do want to let all of you know that the presentation this evening is being recorded. As well, the presentation, the PowerPoint, will be on our website, I'm told, by tomorrow. So that as I go through a number of the slides, and same with our colleagues, the notice that you'll have is that there's a lot of information to take, and I completely understand the fact that you're going to be saying slow down or speed up, but you'll be able to do that at your own leisure once you take a look at this on our website itself. I want to introduce our team at the district level. So myself, I've already introduced myself, also Shin Chand, our Assistant Secretary Treasurer, who's going to be speaking a little bit later about the neighborhood learning spaces that are available with our new school. Michelle Gillu will touch on the impact on the human resources and how we're going to be moving forward in ensuring that we have staffing in both of our schools. Joanne Abshire, who's been a key to the supports that we have in place as far as communicating to our communities. The messaging that you've got out for this evening is all attributed to her, and it certainly has been a vital part of the work that we're doing. Stephen Welsh, a data management coordinator, is helping with the demographic piece around drawing the boundaries themselves, the impact of the boundaries, how the numbers change as a result of moving a line, and our Willoughby Slope principals. I'm absolutely grateful to this particular team. We have a number here this evening. And you hear from them throughout the evening. Folks that have done a tremendous amount of work over the years, just ensuring that there's, first of all, the educational value in each of your students' classes remains high at a time where the demands are fantastic. And we certainly do credit our principals and all of our staff for that work. In addition, I know that the work that you see us all complete around the boundaries and the information evenings all take out of the time that they don't have with their families. So certainly, again, I appreciate the work that they do and the support they give us throughout the process. As far as the timeline, we've started this work, the actual work around communicating the boundaries with you in September. We met as a group, and again in October, I met with all of our slope principals, really talked about the lines and where we thought we'd be drawing them and the impacts that would have on each of the communities, and getting their feedback on the information that they thought their parents would need to hear this evening. As in all steps, the trustees were notified through our Finance and Facilities Committee so that they would be aware on where we believe the proposed boundaries should be. Key meeting for us was on October the 19th. We met with the Willoughby PAC, and that was a face-to-face meeting. And that was done strategically because the impact on the boundary change for this particular boundary change is mostly going to be impacting the Willoughby Elementary community. And thank you to that PAC for coming out and for the fantastic questions you've asked that evening. And you'll see later on this evening that we'll do our best to address some of those questions and then provide you an avenue to ask further questions as well. Depending on the feedback from this evening, we held another space from November the 9th for a second town hall, should that be necessary. And our ultimate goal is by November the 17th, have our recommended catchment changes to the regular board meeting for approval of our trustees. The dates are set quite on purpose, as all of you are aware, or you may be aware. Kindergarten registration begins in the new year. We wanted to make sure that parents had ample opportunity to know where they should be registering their kids moving forward. A little bit of background, probably a lot of information most of you already know around the area that Willoughby Slope, or the area of Willoughby Slope in general, and Willoughby Elementary specifically. In that area, since 2005, we've opened a number of schools, starting with the R.C. Garnet Demonstration School in 2005. And then there was a bit of a wait, 7 years, in fact, before we opened Lynn Pripps in 2012. Right after that, in 2013, Richard Bullpit, and then 2014, Yorkson Middle School. And if you'll remember, if you were a part of if you had children that were older during that time, we had a group of folks come to each of your schools and present potential boundary changes to you then, similar to the process that we're going through currently. In addition to that, we did come to the community as well, because originally the schools in the area were K to 7, we changed them to K to 5, and there was some movement of 6, 7s in that time. And of course, when each of the schools opened up, there was a need to change the boundaries at each of those times as well. We also came back to the community in 2016 when we were asking the question whether we should be opening a new middle school or a new secondary school. And we believe we heard from the community at that point, and the community was resounding in their request to have a secondary school, a state-of-the-art secondary school, as we see today at RE Mountain Secondary. With the opening of RE Mountain in 2019, we were lucky enough to have Peter Ewart open. But again, that was another split of a boundary where we had Yorkson Middle School was divided in half, and half of the students stayed at Yorkson, and the other half moved to Peter Ewart. As we continue down this road, the Willoughby area continues to grow, and I can tell you that there are plans for more elementary schools. Northeast Latimer plans for 2023 or 2024, depending on the needs as far as the demographics and funding from the ministry. Southwest Latimer is another school that's going to be opening, and that should be about 2 to 3 years after the opening of Northeast Latimer. As we grow our elementary spaces, there's going to be a need for more middle. So the plan is to have at least another middle school, and in addition, opening another secondary school in the Slope region. And with each of those, we'll be back. We'll be back to have the same conversation with the community about the potential of changing boundaries. And we're going to do all we can between now and then to be strategic in where we place the lines. But we are limited by just where the development is and how quickly our numbers go up. But all the way through the process, we do try and do our very best to be transparent, provide you with the information that we have so that you can make informed decisions for your children as we move forward. And the person who is going to help us through with the communications is our communications manager, Joe Abshai.
Thanks, Mal. So I'm just going to go over just overview of what parents can expect. I will say that I am a parent in the Willoughby Slope community, so I am well aware of the changes, and I am well aware of trying to communicate to parents and thinking from a parent perspective. So we always try to be proactive. We want to keep you informed and transparent, as Mal had said, and we want to give you the information in a timely manner so you can plan for your family. So with that being said, just on the screen, as you can see, this is sort of what you can expect between now and when the school opens in September. So you can expect an administrator announcement in January, and in February, you'll also expect, that's when our staff will decide on a principal. You'll also expect the transition team to communicate to the school community as well, and you'll hear more about what the transition team is a little bit later on in the presentation. And as we previously, in the year before, in February, we had sent out communication to all families in the Willoughby Slope region based on here's what you do for enrollment and registration. We'll also be doing that as well, but it'll be a little bit different in that it'll be communications for schools, for example, for the elementary, or rather the Willoughby Slope or Willoughby Elementary, as well as for the new Southwest Yorkson school. So you can expect that as well. And then after spring break, you can also expect more updates from the transition team in regards to numerous topics, as well as just general information on when the new school will open. So this is sort of just the bare minimum of what you can expect. You can also expect frequent communication from your schools as well. And at any point between now and spring break, or even when the school opens, you can email feedback at sd35.bc.ca with any of your questions, and district staff can answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. And I'm going to try and go through. I'm going to go through with you the proposed boundaries. As we're going through the boundaries, I'm going to try and kind of slow the process down as much as possible. But I do want to reiterate one more time that we will have this PowerPoint up on our website by tomorrow, and so you can take a look at that, look at the boundaries at your own leisure. I think it's helpful to know just a little bit more perspective on our actual numbers. Should we not have had a school open at Southwest or the Southwest area, Yorkson Elementary School, the potential for our numbers to be increasingly difficult to accommodate are obvious by the projections provided on the screen right now. By 2029, the numbers could be almost at 1,400 students in a school whose capacity we've actually kind of capped out somewhere around 530, 540. The potential of even trying to maintain our current boundaries is not even possible as far as trying to maintain that continuity for students. And the current catchment area, as you take a look at it here, is actually quite big. If you're familiar with the area, you look at kind of the southwest area or southeast area of Glover, all the way up to 196 in the freeway. It's quite the area as far as square footage and square kilometers. And you look at the number of developments that have come into play over the last couple of years, increasing the density and the need for a new school. I want to remind folks as well that in 2018 we opened Peter Ewart and divided Yorkson's catchment. And the notice for you is that the catchment line dividing the two is along 80th, starting at 196. We have a jog up and around Willoughby. I believe that's 204 to 208, and the line at 74B and across. And the reason I described that is because the proposed boundary is actually mirroring that line between the two schools. And that line is very important because the Willoughby Elementary community up until now, and again, just for the last 2 years, has taken their grade 5 students and moved them into 2 separate middle schools, including this year. So that means that half of the class was going to Yorkson, the other half of the grade 5s was transitioning into grade 6 to Peter Ewart. We met with the Willoughby community at the time. We explained the situation as to why we were thinking that we needed to do that, especially in light of the size of the catchment area. And the decision was made then that we would do that in order to set up the boundary for the new school, because we knew that potentially we were going to have a new school within a couple of years, and again, couldn't come soon enough, but certainly is here now to open for September of 2021. Here's the two boundaries side by side. Again, just a comparison around the kind of the square kilometers between both, quite similar in size, but different as far as density of development in each of those areas. But certainly an opportunity for both Southwest Yorkshire Catchment and the Willoughby Catchment to increase as far as total numbers of students requiring services. So the Willoughby Catchment, I just want to describe that to start with. And again, if you'll notice at the top of the screen of the map, just where above it says, where it says Willoughby, just above that, there's a red arrow. That red arrow is describes the boundary, and you'll notice as we flip from slide to slide that that red arrow will describe the wording on the left-hand side. So I'm just going to start from the left side of the arrow, which is Highway 1 in 196. Traveling east along Highway 1 all the way to 208, that's your northern boundary. Your eastern boundary, 208th Street, west side only to 78th Avenue. And then from 208th and 78th, going along 206, going north to 206 to 80th Avenue. That's the road that's currently in front of Willoughby Elementary, traveling directly west on 80th Avenue to 196 once again, and then from 196 back to the freeway, completing the catchment for Willoughby Elementary. Again, I think a special note that the western, the northern, and the eastern catchment hasn't changed for Willoughby. It's just a split in the middle. Even with the change, as I've talked earlier, we are going to have concerns with the ultimate catchment in the Willoughby area. And I tell you this now because, as I said 2 years ago when we did the Peter Ewart and Yorkson catchment changes, I told you then that we were going to have new schools and there'll be more catchment changes to come. I can tell you there's going to be more schools, talked about Northeast Latimer, that there are going to be more catchment changes to come for the Willoughby area schools. I believe the next catchment change will include more than just Willoughby Elementary, that there will be a change with the greater community. And the numbers, once again, for Willoughby, as the projections move forward, and you can take a closer look at these numbers as you take a look at the PowerPoint when you at your leisure. For the proposed Southwest Area Elementary catchment for 2021, this is the proposed catchment for that. Again, noticing that the northern boundary is the southern boundary for Willoughby Elementary. So again, described the same way as before, as far as the move from 196 and 80th, moving east along 80th Avenue, almost to the school until we jog up and around, going up 206 and then around 78th Avenue all the way to 208. Again, that was necessary just to ensure that Willoughby was in its own catchment. And then as we move to the east boundary, we're going south down 208th Street to the line of 74B, all the way along to 216th Street, and 216th then goes to Glover Road. Glover Road travels southwest to the Langley bypass, right close to Mufford Crescent. Again, so bear with me. Lots to go through on this slide. As we go from that Glover Road location, we travel along the Langley bypass to the west, and then connect with the Willowbrook connector. We're going all the way to 68th Street or 68th Avenue, and then from the intersection of 208th Street and 68th Avenue, we're traveling west to 202B Street, and then go north on 202B Street until it becomes 202A Street, to 74th Avenue, going east on the east side only, and then going west on 74th Avenue to 200th Street, and then traveling south on 200 to 69th Avenue, and then traveling all the way to 196 from 69th Avenue. The west side, again, pretty simple, from 196th Street and 69th, we're moving to 80th Avenue, which was the place we started. Again, I want to highlight for the community that the numbers are going to work for us for a few years, but depending on the accelerated growth that we're seeing in the area, we are anticipating by 2025 will be somewhere close to the capacity of the building itself, the way it stands without portables, and we'll have to look at alternate options then. And we are looking at an option of another school at Southwest Latimer. More to come on that when announcements come from the ministry. The numbers, again, for you to look at your leisure, but certainly the numbers would indicate that at some point we would need a new school. But again, just want to highlight that Southwest area Yorkson Elementary will not be the only school that's impacted in this particular situation, because we're going to have schools that are east of Southwest area Yorkson Elementary that are going to be way beyond their capacity. We're going to have to do a rearrangement of the catchment in a few years when the new schools open up. What we're trying to do at this point is to maintain some continuity based on the current lines that we have in place, but we want the community to be on notice that because of the growth, we will be back. So what does this mean? I'm going to ask Kim Anderson to come up, principal of Lynn Fripps, to help walk us through that. Kim.
Good evening, everybody. As one of the principals on the Willoughby Slope, it's been my great fortune to work alongside a really great team of colleagues. And over the last number of years, one of sort of the gifts of the slope has been how well we've connected and how well we've been able to communicate with one another. With the growing numbers on the slope, one of our sort of go-tos has been that we have been a campus model. And what that means is, as a team of administrators, we've worked to ensure a smooth transition into one of our buildings for all of your children. Sometimes it's in your catchment school and sometimes it's in a different school because of space and demographics. And what we've been working on over the last number of years is ensuring that we have consistent expectations, consistent guidelines, and that our communication is open so that you're receiving similar experiences in all of the schools. We meet weekly and we chat about what's going on in each of the buildings. And so we do happen to have really great communication and offer similar experiences for all of our students. Over the last number of years, we've welcomed students into Lynn Fripps who've been from the Willoughby catchment. And while we have been really excited to have them and grown them as part of our family, we've been communicating all the way along that those students would be going back to their catchment schools from September of 2021. A number of our students have been in different buildings, whether they're in Richard Bullpit or Gordon or in RC Garnet or down at Langley Meadows. And while they meant to have been at Willoughby Slope for catchment, we've welcomed them into our buildings. Come September 2021, we will be returning all of our students back to their catchment schools as we've been communicating for a number of years. I know that some of you may be nervous about this and wondering what this will mean for your child, but what it means is that our great communication skills with each other have allowed our students with their similar experiences to be transitioned smoothly back to their home schools. So beginning in January and February, you'll receive communication from where your children are now, telling them about what that process will look like moving them back to their schools in September. We expect that we'll continue to work together as a family of schools, a really tight-knit family of schools, and ensure that together our students have a really successful start to September. So come January or February, we look forward to communicating with you and welcoming our students back for September and ensuring a great successful transition for September 2021. I'm just going to introduce Michelle Gillu to you. And she's the Director of Human Resources and is going to share some information. One more quick thing I'd like to point out is that some of you may feel that you have a sort of a special and unique situation with your children. And as we have always done, we welcome you to have those conversations with us, to reach out and speak to your school principals, because what we are going to continue to do is to ensure the most successful transition and the best chances for your child moving forward. Michelle?
Thank you, Kim. Hi, everyone. So I will be speaking to you tonight about how we go about staffing a new school. And so we have done this several times in Langley already and been very successful in managing the movement of staff from building to building, and ensuring a smooth transition for students with having the staff in place for them when the school opens in September. So we accommodate these moves by holding 2 special rounds of postings, and we typically do those in February at some time. So we work closely with all partner groups. That would be our union and our teachers and our principals of each of the respective schools to ensure that everyone has the information that they need to make their decisions. So in February, some postings will come out. We'll have 2 rounds, and teachers from the Willoughby area, as well as other areas in Langley, will be able to apply to those positions. So something that's important to remember is that our district's regular post and fill process will apply. And so when those postings come out in February, the teachers in the Willoughby Slope area, and especially at Willoughby, will have an opportunity to apply to all of those. They'll know about that well ahead of time, and those interviews and all of those offers will be made well ahead of time, so those teachers can begin to work with the new administrator and start planning the transition to the new school and what all of that will mean. So the staffing process has been very successful in the past. We followed this similar process for Yorkson Creek, and then again with Peter Ewart. And both of those staffing processes went very well, and the school opened for the students very smoothly in September. So we work together with the union and the schools to help teacher post into the work early and get established. And we work with our administrators very closely at every step of the way, and administrators communicate with staff on a regular basis to help them answer any questions that they might have. So we work, as Kim was saying, our communication and our collaboration through the entire process will be very strong, and it will ensure a smooth staffing process for everyone. Thank you. I would like to now introduce Kevin Reeves, who is the principal at Peter Ewart Middle School. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Speaking of transitions, you've heard Kim Anderson talk about the campus model and Michelle talk about human resources and the staffing piece. There's many parts of the transition that happen: culture, transportation, PAC, staffing, and a variety of others. But what I'd like to focus on today is the culture. And building a culture of a new school, having come from Yorkson Creek to Peter Ewart and being on the Willoughby Slope for the past 5 years, and working with our colleagues on the Willoughby Slope, we have worked incredibly closely with our parents and our staff and our students to have open communication as to what it is and what is important for opening a new school. And it's engaging the community through transition activities, including choosing the values and student mission statements, mascots, colors, and logos. And knowing who your staff are, knowing who your students are ahead of time enables us to do this before the school even opens. Administration visits future catchment students, start transition activities with the future Southwest Yorkson Elementary students, and share the opportunities the new school has to offer. February of 2021, as Michelle talked about, staffing, which again helps administration and staff come together in order to have a smooth transition. And then April 2021, PAC elections for both schools and constitutions and elections. That Phyllis Giovanni, the principal of Willoughby Elementary, will talk about more. And then late spring 2021, parent and student information nights, bringing the whole community together for the opening of the school in September. So a lot goes on behind the scenes and in front of the public and with the students to make sure that there is this nice, smooth transition, and the culture of the school has already started to be built before it even begins. At this time, I'd like to hand it over for PAC information evening to the principal of Willoughby Elementary, Phyllis Giovanni.
Thank you, Kevin. Good evening, everyone. I'm the principal at Willoughby Elementary, and as you can see from the slides that you saw before, that Willoughby will be the school that is impacted the most by the opening of the school in Southwest Yorkson. And we appreciated the opportunity last Monday that Mal, Gil, and Joe Abshire came out to our PAC meeting to inform parents of this presentation. So what you've seen this evening, they've also seen. So they had an opportunity. There were about 25 to 30 of us in attendance at that meeting, and they had the opportunity to look at the catchments for both schools. And they also had an opportunity to ask some questions and give feedback at the end. So a lot of the questions that they asked that evening are included in this presentation this evening. And on that note, I'd like to turn it over to Mal Gill.
Thank you, Phyllis. And again, I really would like to thank the PAC. The meeting last week was very informative for all of us. And again, I think part of this presentation certainly is a reflection of the next part of this presentation is a reflection of the thoughts and the questions of the Willoughby parents. So thank you again. So I just want to run through the questions, and I realize this information, there's a lot of it, but again, part of the all of this will be on our website as soon as tomorrow. So the questions, I'll just read it quickly. Will there be further changes to the catchment other than the split of Willoughby Elementary boundary for September 2021? The answer to that is no. We're only taking the split of the Willoughby Elementary School to the trustees in November, so there won't be any other changes for this catchment change. But as I've highlighted throughout the presentation, there will be other catchment changes over a period of time as more elementary schools are introduced to the Willoughby region, as well additional middle and potentially an additional secondary school as well. The question of grandfathering was certainly something that was asked, right? I think maybe one of the first or second questions of the evening, and certainly a question that we appreciate. I think one of the things that we struggled with the Peter Ewart and the Yorkson boundary split was, what's it going to look like? Are students going to move to the new school or to Peter Ewart? Are they going to want to stay in the place that they're at Yorkson? And we were unsure, to be honest, about what that was going to look like. So at that particular time, we kind of put together a similar situation, a similar set of guidelines for our principals moving forward as we have in place now. That means that, yes, we're expecting our students to move to their catchment area schools, absolutely. But as we always do at Langley School District, and our principals do a great job, and our staff as well, of listening to the parents. And if there are special circumstances that impact you or your family or your student, those are circumstances we're willing to listen to. Our goal is to have viable opportunities in both of the schools moving forward, and it's really difficult to do that if everybody stays at the schools that they're currently at. And I know through the campus model, we have students all over the Willoughby Slope, and so we will be looking to have those students return to their catchment schools unless there's a conversation that is had with the principal, and the principal is working with me and our other district staff to see if that's a possibility to have students not transition. What happens when more new schools open up, Northeast Latimer and Southwest Latimer? Again, can't answer this question enough and can't be clear enough to say the boundaries will change again. Again, same kind of process that we've gone through in the past, and this time will be the process that we'll go through in the future. We will establish the best place for the catchment or the boundaries, and then we will come back to the community to let you know whereabouts those boundaries will be. Do we know when those schools will open, and what the new catchment boundaries will be, or when they will be created? So again, we're looking at 2 to 3 years before we open our next school at Northeast Latimer. As I showed you the numbers as far as the demographics in each of those schools, you'll notice that by about 2024, 2025, we are going to be in some trouble as far as total number of spaces on the slope. And that's only a small picture of the whole slope. We also have to look at the other schools in on the slope, Glen Fripps, Richard Bulpit, Langley Meadows, and RC Garnet, to ensure that those numbers are appropriate for the learning of students in each of those buildings as well. So there may be cause at that point to shift boundaries greater than the boundaries of just the Southwest Latimer, Southwest Yorkson Elementary area school and Willoughby Elementary as well. Will there be more before or after school spaces in the incoming new school? And you know what, this question is a little more complicated than just a yes or a no. And so I thought I'd ask Assistant Secretary Treasurer Shin Chan to come and speak to the notion of neighborhood learning spaces. Mr. Chan, if you don't mind.
Thanks, Mel. New Southwest Yorkson Elementary School will have designated neighborhood learning center space. The objective of the Ministry of Education's Neighborhood Learning Center programs is to create places where people of all ages can access education, community services, recreation, and culture. As we know, there's a huge demand for school-age daycare spaces in the Willoughby Slope area and other childcare space as well. This was a major reason for the ministry approving the addition of the neighborhood learning center space into this project. There are 3 classrooms of space with a capacity for 83 kids. We are currently setting out criteria for the type of daycare services and model we will utilize for these spaces. Once this criteria is determined, we will put the daycare services out for RFP, which means request for proposals from qualified daycare providers. Our goal is to have the criteria determined by the end of December, early January, and then put it out for proposal. We want to reward by the end of February, beginning of March. This will give the new daycare provider plenty of time to plan and set up this service. Thank you.
Thank you, Shin. Next question asked is early years and Strong Start programming takes up a lot of space, especially at Willoughby Elementary. Wondering, the question was out there, why are we using that space, that classroom space for Strong Starts? I think certainly we understand the perspective around the classroom being used for other purposes, but as well, the Strong Starts are an opportunity for us to work with our community around providing opportunities for our students from birth right to grade 12. As we've heard through the campaign, that certainly more and more of the responsibility around supports for students pre-K may be a part of the school district's responsibility, or at least a partnership. And so it makes sense to have Strong Starts within our schools and within our regions. And again, trying to level the playing field for all of our students in providing those opportunities for learning for our students and for our parents, or our future students and for our future parents. Why can't a grade 4 and 5 student stay at Willoughby Elementary? You know what, when this question was asked, I started to answer it, and then the principal, Phyllis Giovanni, answered it, and I thought, you know what, if she could just come up and maybe answer it the same way, that would be helpful. Thank you, Phyllis.
Thanks again, Mel. So right now, we know our grade 5 students will be going either to Yorkson Middle School or to Peter Ewart, but our grade 4s, we have currently enrolled at our school 107 grade 4s, and some of them will have to go to the new elementary school. But you know what, that's going to be okay, because children are resilient and they can do hard things. That's one of the mottos that we have at our school right now. And one of my passions when I was a teacher many years ago, and still is, student leadership. And you need to give students an opportunity to lead. And by having those grade 4s turn into grade 5s next September and having them go to a brand new school, it gives them a wonderful opportunity to be able to lead the younger kids in the opening of a new school. And those grade 4s that we know will be moving in grade 5 over to the new school will have an opportunity in the springtime to meet and to come together to pick out mascots and colors and things like that. So again, we know that children are resilient, we know that they can do hard things, and they will get the job done because they're coming from Willoughby Elementary and they will be ready. Thank you.
Thanks, Phyllis. questions that's come up through the last two consultations, certainly around the district and developments and sidewalks and the infrastructure and the safety of our students, and how much influence we have over the township. I think one of the things that we're proud of is the partnership that we have with the township, and through the last transition, we were lucky enough to have a member of township on that transition team, and he spent a lot of time listening to parents about some of these concerns. And I believe that the crosswalk on 80th and 204 was really born out of that discussion. And certainly there was lots of listening that went on and an opportunity for influence. And I think at the end of the day, we do our very best to work with the township, but at the end of the day, our work is to ensure that we have schools, school facilities, and appropriate educational environments for all of your students. Will the new school have enough parking? Yes, according to what the township is requesting us to have, we're going to have 50 spaces, and that's well above the necessary number for staff. And there'll be additional 19 drop-off spaces, but 78th Avenue will be open for pickup and drop-off as well. So I'm hoping that the times for pickup and drop-off will be smooth. But as always, our school principals do a great job of ensuring safety of all of our students and come up with the best routes for pickup and drop-off for all of our students. Probably a question asked by everybody, will there be transportation at the new school? What I did was I went ahead and checked to see from a fixed point. So I picked Peter Ewart Middle School, and I chose that spot as the starting point, and then driving distance to Willoughby Elementary and driving distance to the new Southwest Area Elementary School. The difference between those two locations was 0.1 of a kilometer, so about 100 meters, as far as distance from Peter Ewart. You can extrapolate that from your own address and look at the numbers as far as the difference is concerned. And if you fall beyond the 3.2 kilometer walking distance, then transportation would be provided for your student. Will Willoughby Elementary be closed when the new schools are built? At this point, no. Willoughby Elementary School will be open in September of 2021. As you can see by the numbers, we need Willoughby to be a viable part of our plans moving forward, and we're excited to have that school as one of our schools. And if you haven't had an opportunity to visit, I suggest you do. It's a fantastic place, probably mostly because of the staff, but certainly because of the kids as well. As we move forward, I'm sure there's going to be a ton of questions, and so if you have questions, feedback at sd35.bc.ca is the method for you to get your questions out to us. And if we can't answer them, we'll find a way to get somebody else to answer them for you, so we can get back to you as soon as possible. And again, if you're unsure about boundaries or you're unsure about what was said, the presentation this evening has been recorded, and as well, the PowerPoint will be up and ready for you to look at by tomorrow as well. I do have a few thank yous. Thank you to the Willoughby community, all of the whole entire community for sure, for working with us. You've trusted us with your students. We appreciate your trust. And we're going to do our very best to transition all the students to their appropriate schools in the new year. And I know we have the right teams in place to make that happen. We'll get to the naming of the principal in January, February, so they can aid us in that process as we move to open the new school, as Mr. Reeves talked about during the transitions portion of the presentation. Our Human Resources Department will work diligently, so thank to Ms. Gillu for her help this evening and her continued help in ensuring that we have qualified teachers who care and provide the best learning possible for your students. To Shin Chan for coming out this evening and presenting as well regarding daycare and neighborhood learning spaces. To Joanne Abshire and her work around communications. To Kim Anderson and her work around just, what does it mean for your student moving forward? And just to let you know that we are a team, and to Phyllis, of course, Giovanni, for her effort all the way through. She's been a key member of our team and was there during our evening, and has always been a great positive influence on us. As well, Paul Babao, who's been working the technical side of things this evening. Thank you, Paul. And thank you, all of you, for taking some time out of your busy evenings to listen to us. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Good night and good evening. Thank you so much.